There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if it's wide.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, here with you with the April 2022 rundown of the show. I cannot believe we are now 103 episodes into this here podcast. Absolutely insane. It still feels like just like yesterday, I guess, that like I was like, oh, I should probably do a podcast, doing the radio show, but being like, maybe we should do a podcast too. Maybe we'd reach more people if I did a radio show and a podcast. But, goddamn, we're like 2.5 years in now. And even, just this year, I can't believe we're already at the end of April. And like, I start thinking about that. And yeah, it was not just yesterday that I started this podcast. Not at all. The radio show, we celebrated the 100th episode back in May 2018. So, that one, we've celebrated twice now, but, the radio show at some point, I'm kind of like, all right, we've been doing it for 6 years now, in some ways it feels like yesterday, but a lot less than the podcast does. Cause obviously, we've been doing it like 3 times as long, but, just with the podcast, that's a whole nother one where it's like, I'm now like hitting milestones that I hit with the radio show, so it's not even like my first time around. At least the first time around, it's like, I've never had not a real radio show. I had like podcasts with friends when I was younger and did some like little segments on college radio when I was in college and stuff. Power Chord Hour is definitely like my first real show, and like hitting some of those milestones for the first time, which is crazy. But now doing it a second time with this one is another one where I'm just like, oh my god, like we're doing it all over again. We're actually supposed to have, and I gotta say, I had Jean Beauvoir for our 100th episode, and is an all-time guest. That was one of my favorite interviews I've done all year, and like of all time. He was so much fun. Could have talked to him forever. We were originally going to have Jason Camacho, actually, of Audio Karate. He was our guest for the 100th episode of the radio show, and scheduling wise, we just couldn't really make it work. And we were coming up on that 100th episode real quick, and it was like, we can't really keep putting it off. Like, I didn't want to be like, okay, well, let's not do an episode for a week or two, and then do episode 100 later. So that sadly didn't work out. I'd love to have him back on kind of for his second 100th episode. But I think it worked out really well. And Jean's someone who I wanted on for a very long time, but I didn't even time it for him to be the 100th episode. The guest on the 100th episode, which I thought was cool. He's an absolute legend there. So a cool one to have on for your 100th episode. But really, it could have. If like, interview dates were a little different or like something was just a little off. My 100th episode could have been Jeremy Porter. It could have been Leo from Reminders. It could have been Barely Blind. It could have been any of the other guests that I had on in April. But Jean Beauvoir, it worked out, and I had such a fun time with him. If you've not heard the 100th episode, just go back a few episodes and listen to that. My God, there's so much to talk to someone like that about. The guy's been doing it since the 70s, you know what I mean? And like, since he was like 15 years old. So there's so many eras. There's different parts of his life. Here's him as a front man. Here's him as a music director. Here's him as a bass player. Here's him as a producer. Here's him working like more behind the scenes in the music industry, like more on the business side. Like he's done it all and seen it all. And those are my favorite people to interview because it's just, you can take it so many places. There's not like just one definitive thing you got to talk about. And which at the same time, I think some people want you to talk about, like when I ask people like, hey, I'm talking to Jean Beauvoir, like any questions, one of the biggest ones I would say is plasmatics. I will say to this day, at least for me, for people who wanted me to ask certain things, I got a lot of plasmatic questions, and I got to some of them, but that is the one thing about someone who's done so much like that is focusing on one thing. I almost try not to. I guess if you're specifically doing, if I interviewed him and it was like the album anniversary for like the Ramones' Brain Drain, we would talk a lot about the Ramones. But like with something like this, it's like you almost want to touch base on everything and get in a little bit, but like, kind of jump to the next thing. Now, music production, I went full fucking in on that. That is definitely what we talked about the most. But that was kind of where the conversation was going, and it was so much fun because he was really like he was indulging me. Like I would ask these questions. He would give me like great answers, get very in depth. Like the producing process, what he liked, what he didn't like. The difference of like producing a band who really doesn't have a defined sound versus producing like Kiss or the Ramones in the 80s after they'd already been around a decade plus and already kind of had a sound. Just all those things. Like so much fun talking to him. And that was a really, really good way for a 100th episode. I would have loved to have Jason Camacho on. I'm sure we'll have him on in the future. But I was very happy that Jean Beauvoir got to be our on our 100th episode. I keep going to say 100th guest, and I definitely haven't had 100 guests on the show in the 6 years of our existence. I've had a lot of guests. I can tell you without even counting, I definitely haven't had 100. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I have to count that out. I did it like, I want to say like a year and a half ago. I sat down. I knew I was doing the podcast by that point because a good chunk of the guests were podcast guests. But I did like count all the people I've had on my show before once. And I think I was hitting like 30. But that was also, I mean, a year and a half ago, I've gotten a lot more consistent with having guests almost weekly. So I mean, we're probably like 50 plus, but I don't think we're at 100 yet. I will, then I'll have to do the math, and then our 100th guest will have to be someone really big. That'll be pretty cool. But who knows? That might be. I want to say it's a long way away, but again, I don't really know the numbers, so I could crunch some numbers right now and go, oh shit, we're like 98 guests in. So I guess I'll have to figure that one out. And speaking of past guests and also like all time ones, Jean Beauvoir was up there. Another one this year. I mean, a lot of my favorite interviews, like of all time, have been happening this year. I gotta say, I've been very, very lucky. And hopefully, as the listeners, you've enjoyed the people I've had on. But this year, I've had some amazing guests. And we aired it back in March, so not April. But obviously, John Jughead Pearson talked about it a million times. He's on the show. One of my favorite interviews this year and of all time. The man is a legend. But very cool. What he did in April was he actually recasted our episode on his Jughead's Basement, his podcast feed, which I was like, oh man, like thank you so much. Like it was really nice. I mean, not only did he like the interview enough where it's like I want to share this with everyone. I mean, he told me it was like one of his favorites or one of the best interviews ever done. And I mean, people tell you that sometimes, and it's like I was flattered, but I didn't take too much out of it because I'm like, it'd be nice. But, he had some really, after he told me that, he recasted this, and he did like his own intro and stuff. Like he came on and talked before, airing our interview and stuff, but like such nice things to say about me, like absolutely surreal to, not just like email back and forth and him like, oh yeah, like that was one of the best and like this and that, but like hearing John Jughead, like a huge influence on me, one of my favorite guests I've had on the show, just an all around great guy. Just speaking accolades of the Power Chord Hour and me as an interviewer and a guest or a host and everything. Really, really cool. I can't thank him enough for that too, because look at Jughead's Basement. Let's just be real here. Jughead's Basement has a lot more listeners than the Power Chord Hour does. Like the guitar player from Screeching Weasel definitely has more listeners. There's no doubt in my mind that that's true. And, so it's like he's getting more eyes or ears, I should say, on it, which I greatly appreciate. Not only do I appreciate him thinking it was good enough to recast it like that, also the fact that he would and help me get some exposure. So that was very, very cool too. He's just he's like truly not just a good guest, but like truly a great guy, like to just talk to and like, just pick his brain even after the interview, before the interview, like, so he just I think he also knows like the impact that he has had on people. I mean, myself included, where like, I think he, I don't know. I think you almost get something out of that. Cause I've talked to a few people like that who were huge influences on me and still are, but are also people who generally are like big influences on people. Like I've had a few of them in the past on here. And, they're used to people going like, oh, this record changed my life, or, your music changed my life, or you influenced me to play drums or bass or guitar, write songs, like whatever. But I think if you're, modest or whatever, or just a good person, like when you're in that position, I think you do learn how to handle it, and not even like fanboying out. Like I never really fanboyed out on John. It's not like we got on Skype and I'm like, oh my God, like I fucking love you and stuff, like nothing like that. But like, I think he knows that I'm genuinely a fan, that I really like his music and stuff. And I think he knows how to be, I don't know the word that I want to use, welcoming or warming or whatever, where you feel comfortable to be like, oh my God, tell someone that. Because some people have that standoffishness where you may not want to go up to them and go, oh my God, you're a huge influence on me, this and that. Whereas, someone like Victor comes to mind too, Victor DiLorenzo. I mean, original Violent Femmes drummer, another one. I mean, how many bands has Violent Femmes influenced? How many people started playing drums because of Victor? And he has another one where it's like, there's this welcomingness that, I'm sure you get from years of people being that way, where it's like, you're not someone who like, you just look at that person and go, oh, I better not ask them a question, or I better not tell them that their music means something like that. Sadly there are people like that. But in my experience, everyone has been so fucking cool who's been on the show. And yeah, Jughead was definitely that way and was so fun to talk to. Really funny too. He put up, go follow Jughead's Basement. It's his podcast. Go listen to his podcast too. Really, really good. He gets some really amazing guests on there. But and that was the other thing, like total honor to be a part of, to recast it on there, on a podcast who has some really, really like, that guy, again, when you're John Jughead, like you're going to get some cool guests that might not even do other shows. And he's had some amazing ones on there. And John is also really good at interviewing people. He's a really good host. He's good at asking questions. Like he's good on that side too of it. Like he's really honestly good at it. So if you've never checked out podcasts, go check that out. And one of the cool things on like his Instagram page and stuff, every week he'll kind of put up like an image teaser or whatever, the album art for the episode, whatever. And it's always like him at the bottom of the image, like looking up at that week's guest. So he had this great idea. He emailed me and he's like, hey, like, do you think you could take a picture of yourself doing that pose that I do normally in these? And then he did one. And again, it's normally him looking up at the guest, but on this one, it's me where Jughead normally is, and I'm looking up at him. And it's hilarious because I took a bunch. Like he was like, hey, if you don't mind. I was like, the second I saw it, which was funny, it was also like 1 a.m. and I was laying down to go to sleep. But again, when John Jughead emails you and he goes, hey, like, if you could, like, would you mind taking a picture in this pose, kind of copying me so I can do like a parody version? I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like got up, got dressed, went into the bathroom, got the right lighting, played with it, probably took like 40 pictures. That was the other thing too. Like 1 a.m. I'm sending Jughead an email with probably like 40 images of me, just 40 selfies of me and me in like different but similar poses. So I'm like, here's this angle, here's this one, I'm holding my chin in this one, I'm looking this way in this one. Like I gave him options, and what came out was really cool. I gotta laugh at that. So if you haven't seen that, go to Jughead's Basement on Instagram. Really all of I think Facebook and Twitter too, but I feel like Instagram's easiest to find it. And you'll see that picture of him normally where the guest is and me where Jughead normally is looking up at him. And I thought that was very funny. But yeah, that was a nice way to start April, honestly. I think he released that like first week of April. And again, like just getting to listen to it and like, hearing this guy who you've been listening to since high school. Like I remembered not too long ago, and maybe I said it on here, but like one day it just hit me. I'm like, oh shit, like the first day of 12th grade, I remember wearing my Screeching Weasel shirt, like the like with the Weasel logo with the cigarette and everything. And just thinking of shit like that, where it's like, oh my God. And now like, the guy who like found that band, the one who's on all those quintessential records, played guitar on all those, iconic pop punk songs. It's like, here he is speaking accolades of me on his podcast. Fucking nuts. Just absolutely fucking nuts. Really cool. Really, that put a smile on my face. I was really into that. Also too, this is kind of funny. I put it on the Power Chord Hour Twitter page not too long ago, but I was listening to My Brain Hurts, speaking of Jughead, and listening to Teenage Freak Show, which it kind of hit me. I was listening to it and I'm like, Cheshire Cat era Blink-182 would have covered the shit out of that song. Like I'm listening to it going, I can imagine, I see Mark doing the lead vocals and then Tom coming in the choruses with that backing, It's a Teenage Freak Show. And then also at the end, those little wah-ah-ohs, like those and stuff, that would probably be Tom as well. And I think they could have absolutely killed that song. Obviously, they did cover The Girl Next Door. I mean, they covered Screeching Weasel. And honestly, I mean, Buddha is basically a Screeching Weasel cover album. Like Screeching Weasel's influence is all over Blink, like, for years. I mean, I would say by like Self-Titled, they started shedding some of, the influence you would hear from them. But like specifically like Cheshire Cat, Buddha into like Dude Ranch, it's like, I mean, there's no way you can't listen to that and go, yeah, Tom DeLonge was listening to Screeching Weasel and John Jughead, his guitar playing and all that. Like 100% he was listening to him. Huge influence. Like you can't hear that and go, oh, it's just a coincidence, and not that Tom would ever say otherwise. Again, they were covering Screeching Weasel way back in the day. But I was just listening to Teenage Freak Show and I'm like, really, like specifically to Cheshire Cat era. Like in my head, I even could think of the era. And I'm like, that's the one. Like, they really could have covered the hell out of that, whether it was live or recording it. Like, I think that would have been such an amazing cover for sure. But yeah, again, really fucking cool of Jughead to recast our episode. Really, really fun interview. And next time we have him on, though, I gotta use like StreamYard or something besides Skype, because I do realize the audio quality in that one was not the world's greatest. Not the world's greatest audio quality on that. I ended up using actually StreamYard to talk to Leo Dyke of Reminders. He was our last interview for the month of April, and he was so much fun. That was a really good one as well too. Like no lie, Reminders debut record, Best of Beach Punk, which that's what we talked about and everything. I mean, it's my favorite album of the year so far. It really is. Like I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it'll end up being number one. I mean, that was like with the Dirty Nil last year with Fuck Art. Like, it came out January 1st, and I'm like, it's my favorite album of the year. And like, the year kept going, and I'm like, I wonder if someone's going to knock it out of its place. And then it's like, you get to a point where you're like, no, I don't think anything's knocking this out of its place. I just think this is the best album of the year. And so far, Reminders has that. I got to say, like, this album, I was kind of telling Leo that, but like, I think what they have going for them is they have that 90s skate punk influence, Green Day, Blink, any Fat Records roster, like anything from back then that you can think of. I feel like those dudes probably listen to. I mean, Rancid's a huge one for them. But what I also think they have is they have a knack for just catchy songs, good melody, where it's like, I could see this band getting radio airplay, like big radio airplay. I play it on my radio show, but I mean, not just like college stations and like smut, like me, I play things like that. I'll play punk music and different weird things you won't hear on other stations. But I'm talking like top 40 and things like that. I really think they would have a chance. I mean, like, not too different from like a Blink-182 or something where, it can kind of appeal to both sides. And I really could see them being a gateway for a lot of people who maybe, maybe they know like Blink and Green Day, but like, don't know the Rancid side or the Operation Ivies or, any of the other great bands that me and Leo were talking about, but they hear Reminders and they end up going back and finding all that stuff, and that was the other thing we were talking about is how that's how me and him both find so many great bands is you look at the bands that you love and you go see what they were listening to growing up. And I think that's like, it really is the best way to find music. And that was a great thing. Just talking to him, getting to talk to about the album. And like, I'm telling you, the UK is like dominating the best music this year. I mean, I'm telling with Reminders, Grade 2 is working on a record. Lovebreakers are working on a record. Like both of those bands will have albums out this year. Actually, Lovebreakers and Grade 2 are on tour with Social Distortion, or they're about to be over in the UK. Like you really got to keep your ear over to there because I'm telling you, the best shit going on right now is coming from the UK. Like, mark my words, like the best albums of 2022. Even last year, Lovebreakers with their debut, that was a killer one from 2021. That was definitely in the top 10 best records of last year, and I think they're probably gonna even outdo themselves on the second one. Because even just interviewing them, like they seem to have, like they weren't like. Oh, because I think some people go into their second record, and you are afraid of if it could be a sophomore slump or it won't be as good as the first one. But they seemed really fucking into what they're doing, and they seemed really like they were pumped on it and had a confidence where I go like, oh, I think, and that was early on. I mean, they've obviously gone much further into it now too. But even then, they seem to believe in it so much that I'm like, oh, okay, like they're on the right track for another one. That first album's great, but they're on the right track to like probably outdo themselves on the next one. So yeah, I mean, keep your ears for keep them out for Grade 2 and Lovebreakers. And if you haven't listened to that Reminders record yet, Best of Beach Punk, I mean, you got to go listen to that thing. It is I do love it too. We discussed it. It's like it's 10 songs it's like 24, 25 minutes long. It's like the perfect record to just whatever you're doing, because it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like, it's in and out. And you know, the songs are so catchy that by like the third listen, you'll already know them all, where it's like, you know, like I listen to it now in anticipation for the next coming song. And like, I know, and then I know when I'm like to track 8 and I'm like, all right, there's one more. And then it's the closer, you know, all those kinds of things. It's just a fun, quick listen. And the weather's been shitty around me lately, but we did have 1 or 2 good days of like, you know, where you could like go drive around with the windows down and just listen to some good fucking music. And it is definitely a summertime record. I mean, even the name Best of Beach Punk can probably tell you that it's a little summertimey, and it is. It's I think it's going to be it's going to be heavy rotation for like summer road trips for me this year, and you know, just driving around and stuff. It's definitely going to be something I'm going to be playing the hell out of. It's just so good. Like, it's the perfect balance of pop punk rock, but also being like catchy, a little pop rock, you know, well produced, really good, like sonically sounds really nice. You know, I can't say enough good things about them. And I'm excited when I get to talk to people like that early on, you know, like with Reminders on their first record. I got to talk to Love Breakers on their first record. You know, I was talking to Leo. We'll probably have some of the dudes in grade 2 on down the road. You know, he knows all those guys and he's friends with them. So I'm excited to get to talk to them all and hopefully get to see them all come play the States at some point. That would be hell of a tour with Reminders Grade 2 and Love Breakers. I mean, again, and I keep, because those are the 3 that I really love at the moment, but there's tons of others too, you know, like there's definitely other bands over there that are doing really well right now. But those are my big 3. That's the holy trinity, in your buddy Anthony's opinion, is right there with them. So I'm sure Leo will be back on. I'm sure Love Breakers will be back on. And, you know, same with Grade 2 dudes, they'll be on for their first one. And I'm looking forward to it when that day comes. And who else did we have on this month? We also had Jeremy Porter of Jeremy Porter and the Tucos. That was a really fun one to talk to him. You know, he's played Jamestown a few times, and you don't get a lot of people who have played in this area. So when you do, it's really neat to get to talk to them, including when they know the places, like they know the wine cellar and they know Mojos and stuff like that. Like my aunt and uncle used to own Mojos. Like when he played there, it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, they owned it the whole time, but you know, like just things like that where it's like, oh yeah, I played there. I'm like, it's so funny where you go, people never play Jamestown. Then this guy's now I played Jamestown, but like he's probably met my aunt and uncle and played their bar and stuff, you know, like really, really cool. He's a solid dude. He was another one who was really fun to talk music, because I also feel like with me and him too, we got to discuss, because not only does he play music, but he writes about it and stuff too. He does reviews, he reviews shows, he reviews albums, you know, he's like a music journalist too. So it's like, we could talk about his music, but we could also get sidetracked and just talk about either other artists or just music in general. And like, you know, he had, you know, like obviously well thought out opinions, things he's probably written and thought about before. And he was a blast to talk to. He was really cool. I'm surprised it took as long to get him on. He's one of those guys, you know, some people it's funny, and you'll hear me in the interviews where I go like, I can't believe it's taking this long to have you on, but it's like there's a lot of artists who I'll correspond with like throughout the years, but like more for like music and stuff. Like, you know, he'll shoot me music when he has it and we'll chat and stuff. Like we've definitely talked before, you know, not on microphone. But yeah, it's like sometimes I just, you know, again, and I've said it before, like there's people who would have been a no-brainer to have on way sooner, and it took forever to have him on, just, you know, to know, and nothing real. It's not like it was a personal thing. It's not always like, oh, fuck this guy, I'm not having him on or anything. It's just like either I had a guest on at a certain time, or it didn't cross my mind, or maybe it did at one point, but then I started doing other stuff. You know, that stuff happens all the time. I mean, there's been throughout the years, there's so many guests who were like supposed to be on the show who just, and again, like nothing bad. It was just time, you know, schedules didn't work. And then eventually, you know, you stop circling around. You know, you might ask once or twice, but it's like, and people are busy too. There's, I was, you know, I do interviews now too over at 107.9 WRFA, the radio station that airs the Power Chord Hour. But I work over there now, and I'm the host of a couple different shows. So I'm doing tons. I mean, I'm doing interviews for the Power Chord Hour, but I'm also doing interviews for 2 other shows. So I mean, there's weeks now where I can have like 5 interviews in a week. I mean, sometimes more. The show I do, Arts on Fire, this last week here on last Friday, I had 4 guests on in the hour. Like and it was funny because I did them everywhere. I had someone in studio, and then I drove to the other 2, which was really cool. The one was really neat because I got to interview the head of the music department at Jamestown Community College, and I was there for 3 years. He was coming in as I was leaving, so it's funny, like, I met him once in 2014 to like borrow an upright bass. Like, I was like, can I like get in here and use this? And that's like, that might be the only interaction we ever had. And now doing this, I've talked to him a few times about new events and stuff going on at the school and the performances from the music department. And I got to go in and get a tour because they renovated the whole place last time I saw it was when I was there in 2014. And that's actually the one I've talked about many times on here, that at Jamestown Community College, where that was my graduation, that I skipped to drive 7 hours to go to Skate and Surf 2014 to go see Midtown Reunite and go see Hidden in Plain View. But it was so cool to get to go back and see it, and like it was like in such good shape. Because sometimes you worry with, just including, I think, like in music and arts and stuff, that like, the music and arts department in schools and stuff might go away, or, lose funding or this or that. But I went back. The facilities were, and I liked it when I was there. Like, I loved my time there and everything. And the facilities were cool then, but like, they really, like, it's really nice. Like, it is so nice. And to get to go back and be like, oh, okay, like, it's running strong. Like, it's not like you go down there and it's like the music department's on its last legs. It's like, oh man, like, this thing looks like it's stronger than it was when I was here, which that's what you want. You know what I mean? You want to leave it better than you found it, basically. And to get to come back and see that was really cool. And it's pretty rad too that like I get to do that for my job. Like, I got paid to like go down there and interview the head of the music department and like get a tour of the place. Like, that's the kind of, I don't know, that's the stuff that always like, it puts a smile on my face when I think of like radio. It's silly things, but I go like, I did the same thing when I interviewed Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind. Like, it was like a 5-minute phone interview. Like, it wasn't anything crazy, but it's like, I paid money to talk to the singer of Third Eye Blind. What a wild thing to make money for doing, for like getting on the phone for 5 minutes and discussing, their self-titled record. Like, just ask the guy, like, you remember the first time you heard Third Eye Blind on the radio? Like, things like that. It, I don't take that stuff for granted. I think it's also very rad. That's also why I do this kind of stuff. Same with the Power Chord Hour. This stuff's a labor of love. I don't really get paid for the Power Chord Hour. And, but I also look at it, I'm like, the second I stopped doing it, I would want to do it again. You know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm sure there's people in bands who've been doing it forever where like there's part of them where it's like, there's days where I just want to quit. I just want to give it up. But it's like 3 days later, they'll be like picking up their guitar, playing those songs again. You know what I mean? Like, there's that part of you where it's like, you might want to go away for a little break at times. Like, maybe you need to like, just take a rest and rejuvenate. But like, to just not do it at all, I think you start missing it. Like, I would definitely be bummed if I wasn't doing this show. Like, I didn't care if I ever make another cent on it. It's like, I think I'd get sad that I couldn't, like talk to some of these musicians for like 2 hours and ask them all these questions and same with the radio show, like just get to spin that music that I play and everything. It's too fun not to do. And actually, speaking of the radio show and doing cool shit, this Friday, if you're listening before, what is Friday? May 6th. If you're listening to this before then, we are kicking off May with an all Alkaline Trio playlist. 4 hours of Alkaline Trio this Friday night on the Power Chord Hour. And you can tune in 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. You can also stream the station at WRFALP.com. You'll see the listen button when you go there. You can stream it. And I have the whole playlist set. I originally was thinking about throwing in a couple side projects and stuff too. Maybe I'd play like a Tuesday song or a Matt Skiba, The Secrets, something off. Like, I really like Derek Grant's solo record that he did like 6 or 7 years ago. And, I don't think that one gets enough attention. Play something off that. But honestly, I started doing the playlist and like right away, I already hit like, how many songs I could probably fit without going over, the 4 hours and still being able to like talk and go to break at the top of the hour and everything. All the kind of stuff I got to think about. And I ended up just being straight up Alkaline Trio. It's not like Alkaline Trio and side projects. It's just straight up Alkaline Trio. It's just 4 hours of me talking at Alkaline Trio. And that's going to be a really fun one. I can't wait to do that. But if you're listening to this and it's not 8 p.m. Eastern yet, you still got a chance. That is again, Friday, May 6th, 8 to midnight Eastern on the radio show. And I'm looking forward to kicking off May with that one. And we have some pretty cool guests coming up in May too. Actually tomorrow, I'm recording this Saturday, the last day of April, actually. How fitting. Tomorrow I'm talking to Tony of the band Fastball, which I'm very excited for. They just put out, back in March, I think it came out, their new EP. It's called Soundtrack. And I absolutely love it. I mean, I feel like everyone knows Fastball from The Way and Out of My Head. I mean, those songs, like, to this day, those are like Third Eye Blind territory where it's like, I don't care what year it is, you haven't went a year without hearing a song from them on the radio. Like, you'll hear something. Like, if you flip through the radio all day, at some point, you'll probably hear Semi-Charmed Life on some station, and you'll probably hear The Way on another station. Like, that's just how it works. Those songs are like forever. They just go forever. And which I still like them. I think both those songs hold up really well. And I think it's cool too that like a band like that in the 90s could be on a major label and those could be like bona fide hits. Cause that's like some straight up power pop, like singer songwriter stuff. Like, you know, the like Big Star and Elvis Costello kind of deal. But like probably 5 years ago, I saw Fastball open for Everclear. And again, like I was familiar with Fastball's like singles, like I knew a handful of songs, but after seeing them live, not only were they amazing live, but like I was like seeing them that way and hearing those songs, I was like, oh man, like this is just a solid like rock band, you know, who also like have a nod to like punk, you know what I mean? Like there's moments where you can tell that like I'm sure they listen to I'm sure there's a couple punk records in their collection, you know, kind of thing where it's like they'll do Big Star, but just like the Replacements, you'll hear a little something else thrown in there as well. And I've definitely become a fan in like the last 5 years since seeing them live and just realizing how strong their catalog is. You know what I mean? Those singles are great, but like they're definitely a band that I would implore you to go check out more if you've never, you know, if you heard the name, you know those songs, but that's all you know from them. I would definitely go through and listen to all the albums. Even that one that all the hits are on, All the Pain That Money Can Buy, is such a great pop, you know, like a power pop record. Like, I mean, just those dudes have such a sense for like melody. Like they're one of those bands who write those melodies where you go, like I've heard this before. Like you'll hear it for the first time, but you're like, it sounds like something you've been listening to for like decades. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like a melody from a song that you know, originally from the 60s or something, like that kind of stuff. Which I always love talking to people like that. I'm really looking forward to talking to Tony because I feel like, and you know, again, I feel like I don't know, but he seems like someone who you could really get in depth with, like, you know, just a songwriting process, influences, you know, his influences for melody, all that stuff. You know, I got to ask him about, like, you know, I hear Big Star all over Fastball. I'm assuming they're fans, but I got to ask him that. I got to know about Big Star. You know, probably some Replacements talk. They did a solid covering of Androgynous back in the 90s. And what I love about it is normally when people cover Androgynous, you know, they do it pretty straightforward. You know, they keep it kind of like a piano ballad in a way. And I was kind of expecting, like, if you were going to go hear a cover of that from Fastball, because they got piano and stuff, you'd kind of expect that. But it's more of a, like, garage rock punky version of it, which I love. It almost sounds like a band like it's almost like a Replacements version of a Replacements song. Like, you know, if Androgynous was like a faster song on like Sorry Ma Forgot to Take Out the Trash, kind of like that. So, you know, those kinds of things I'm sure will come up, but I got most of my questions ready, but I'm sure I'll keep writing and listening to Fastball for the rest of the evening to get ready for tomorrow's. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Who else do I have? I have a couple others lined up for May, and I won't give them away yet. I'll wait till they're. I'm always hesitant of, like, I'm okay with like Tony. I'm like, we got situated like a day ago. Like, you know, like a day ago, they're like, okay, yeah, that works. Plus, Fastball retweeted me. It was like, hey, like, anyone got questions and stuff? So I think we're set for it. But I have a couple others in the chamber, and there's actually one that is very different from I feel like anyone I've ever had on the show. But I am really excited for it because it's someone who I absolutely love. They're far from being in the punk realm or anything, more like the folk singer-songwriter realm from like the 60s and 70s. Like, we're going way back. But I was contacted about doing an interview, and I was like, oh my God, like, fuck yes. So I'll keep that under wraps for now. You know, we haven't planned a date or anything yet, but I will tell you we have a couple repeat guests coming up in May, which I'm looking forward to. I will be talking to the Stereo. I will tell you that, which, I mean, that's probably a given. I mean, I feel like I was always going to have them back on. Me and Jamie were talking about him returning last summer when we were, you know, when he announced on here that the new record was coming out. So it's like, obviously you got to come back for the new record. So him and Rory will be on this time. I'm really excited for that. I mean, Rory is an amazing musician, you know, outside of the Stereo. I love the Impossibles, huge Impossibles fan. and I'm excited to talk to them both. And I really enjoy that Kings of No Hope podcast that all the members of Stereo did, but that was Rory's brainchild. I mean, he produced it, put it together, did all of that, and he did a really, really good job on it. Really fine production there if you've never heard that podcast. So I'm sure we'll talk about that, talk about the new album, and I got a million questions already like flying around in my head for them. And I got another one. I'm talking to Dylan Flynn next Thursday from the Pass the Bass campaign, who I had on. He was like an early guest on the Power Chord Hour. We're talking like 5 years ago I had him on, and I met him actually at a Menzinger show when they were touring for After the Party. And so really, and actually you can go if you want to hear this before then. I might end up putting it on the podcast feed sometime soon, because that was initially I messaged him. I'm like, hey man, like, hope you're doing well. Like, would you care if I put this on the podcast feed? And then we started talking. It's like, why don't you just come back on? Like, it's been too long. Why don't you come back on, talk about the campaign and stuff? But like, I won't get too far into it. I'll let Dylan, when we talk, I'll let him like explain his story and his journey and everything. But he had some brain injury. I believe he was in an accident, like a car accident, when he was like a teenager, maybe early 20s. And again, like some of the details are rusty, so I'm not going to sit here and tell it verbatim. You'll hear it when he's on. But sadly caused some brain injury that he's still dealing with decade or so later. And it's definitely affected his life. And now he does this thing where he raises money for the Brain Injury Association of America, and fundraisers through selling these shirts and stuff. And he has all these bands sign his bass, and a lot of them play the bass. That's how I found him at that Menzinger show. They're oh man, what's his name? Not Joe, that's their drummer. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. The bass player of the Menzingers. Kyle. Oh my God, I love the Menzingers. I don't know why I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But anyway, he played Dylan's bass, and on Irish Goodbye too, that is one of my favorite Menzinger songs in a deep cut. Like, I was so fucking stoked when they played that. I was losing my shit. I did not come to that show expecting to hear that song. Like, they were touring on After the Party. It came out a couple weeks earlier. Expecting a lot of like newer songs, stuff like that. Not a really random B-side from a compilation from that came out like 5 years earlier. But that was really cool to see him play Dylan's bass, and he's had some amazing people sign it, some amazing people play it, and we have a lot to talk about, because again, he was on back in 2017, and it's been a long time, so it would be cool to just talk to him about the campaign and what he's doing, and again, get his story. I know I didn't do a great job at getting too in depth about it, but you can find more. I mean, Pass the Bass is on, I believe he has a website. I know he's on Facebook and a couple different places, but he's just a really good dude and has a campaign that really is something special. I mean, he's out there really trying to help other people who have had brain injuries, and just a really nice guy. He's really charming and funny. Like, I love talking to him. It like when we started messaging and stuff too, it's like, why has it been so long since you've been on? 'Cause it's like you're just fun to talk to. You're just funny, dude. Like, I enjoy talking to you. It's like you should be on more. So again, that's another one like I was saying earlier, where it's like people kind of fall through the cracks on interviews, or I'm like, I can't believe I didn't have like Jeremy Porter on sooner. It's just like, it happens. You know what I mean? It's not a personal thing where it's like, oh, I'm not having this guy on. It's like, you either have interviews, you get busy with other things. I mean, life gets busy. Sometimes I just don't have guests on. I've gotten better this year, but there's definitely been times where it's like, I've done a solo episode for a week or something. And, just things like that happen. But it thankfully, that's the nice thing about staying around for 6 years now, is you have enough time to get those people back who you probably should have had on a couple years ago. And you also get to have the people return like that. Like the fact that I've been doing the show long enough where someone who hasn't been on for 5 years can come back on. I mean, things like that are crazy. I mean, we had Steve Neurotic. He was our first ever guest. And he was on in 2016, and then he came back on in 2020. It was kind of the same thing. It's like, wow, that was forever. Though I will say, he was supposed to come on once or twice in between those like 4 years of that gap, and again, like, schedules just ended up not working. But I mean, there were a couple times he was supposed to come on. I'm sure he'll be back on in the future. But yeah, it just happens. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, then there's other ones where it's like, I had Victor DiLorenzo on last September, then it came back in January. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like that. I've had a few guests recently who were already talking about our second one. Actually, like Jamie, like I was just saying with the Stereo, Jamie Wolford was just on in, I believe it was August. It was either late July, early August we aired that. I recorded it in July of last year, But another one, like, within a year he's back, which I'm excited for that, because that was another we had such a fun conversation, just me and him. And I can imagine me, him, and Rory, it's going to be, I mean, there's so much to talk about, because both of those dudes too, we got so much into songwriting and music production and theory and different things with Jamie. And I feel like Rory's kind of the same. I don't know if he's like, you know what I mean? Like gets it where it's like he, I don't know, like well versed in it where he can talk theory and the ins and outs of things, because some people who you would think would, who are like, songwriting geniuses or even producing geniuses or production geniuses or whatever, but like, they don't know the theory side, or they're not as, some people you can ask, like, what's your favorite microphone? And they'll go on for 20 minutes. Other people are like, I don't, and you would think they would have, like, you'd be like, oh, this person definitely will give you, and it's like, they're like, I don't really have a preference. So I don't know. We'll find out with Rory. We'll see where he lands on that scale. But like with Jamie, yeah, I mean, we talked just so much. There was so much to get into about production and theory and songwriting and all that. And we did it like 90 minutes. So I'm sure we'll have another nice long one for you when I talk to Jamie and Rory. But I can't tell you how excited I am for that. I mean, that's another one where it's like, I love the stereo. And the 3 singles that they've put out so far for 13 are so goddamn good. Like when they say it's a spiritual sequel to 300, like, I'm all about it. Like some people try to be like, yeah, this is a spiritual sequel of our most, like well-known record or something. And it's like, okay, bullshit. This one truly is. This truly feels like what the follow-up probably would have been had, Rory not been kicked out of the band. Like, I mean, had he been around for the second album, there's a good chance this is what it would have sounded like. And I'm totally for it. It sounds so good if you've not heard those yet. And we'll play them next month. Or in May, I guess I should say. Depending on when you're listening to this, it's weird because I realized this episode kind of, the way that May ended, I try to do these like towards the end of the month, but then at the same time, if like the, like the last Monday of April was like it was like almost a whole week ago, or it was like, I don't know, it seemed too early to do the rundown. That's why we put the Leo interview there instead. But yeah, depending when you're listening to this, yeah, the stereo interview will definitely get that out here in May. And their record comes out on the 13th. So just another week or so. And I can't wait to hear the rest of it. I'm really excited for that. I was laughing too because I emailed Jamie originally a couple days ago about the interview where it's like, hey, dude, like time to come back on. Like, let's promote it. But I was like, I was going to hit you up for that Kickstarter, but it's like, you didn't need the help. Like you guys you hit every goal that you set. Like you reached every single goal, like a day after you put out, like, hey, now we're trying to raise this much. Like you didn't need my help one bit there. That's why I kind of want it on the back end. It's like, I'll help promote the record once it's out, but you didn't really need my help funding this Kickstarter like that. People want a stereo record. And because I really did at one point, I was like, well, maybe we'll have them on early and we'll talk about the record and, get the word out on this Kickstarter page. But, honestly, at some point I was like, you know what? I'll just mention the Kickstarter page on here, and we'll have them on once the album's out. 'Cause like they don't need my assistance for this one at all, which is not a bad thing. And I'm excited for it. I think we're gonna get a really good one, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I got a few other guests in the chamber, but those are the ones I'll tease for now. I won't tell you too much about the other ones until they happen, or I have a little more. I have a few in the chamber that are more we've said yes, but it's not like we have dates or anything yet. So we'll see on those ones. All right, it is that time of the episode for the April rundown of the show. Let's get into albums and songs released in April 2022. We got a couple here. I mean, it goes without saying, the very first one I got on here is Reminders, Best of Beach Punk. I've been talking up this whole episode. I had so much fun talking to Leo and stuff, but I mean, even before that, and I think I talked about this too on there, and I told him it, but I got like a promo of that record a good couple months in advance, like early in the year, like maybe late January. So I've been listening to that album for quite a while, but like it just instantly hit me. Like right away, I was like the first listen of that record, I was like, oh my God, like I can't wait for this to come out. Like you just want to share it so badly and you can't, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not ready for the world. It's not out yet, but it's like, you're just like, oh my God, like people need to hear this. And I can't say enough good things about it. So definitely go check out Reminders, Best of Beach Punk if you've not done that yet, because you're fucking up not doing it. And we also got Tamar Burke with her new record, Start at the End. We got one from Def Lingo, which I'll play something off their new record here in a little bit. Their album, I should say, Lingonberry. And the Lindas with a new one, Growing Up. We got One Hidden Frame with their new record, I Am Not Here. I played something a few rundowns ago from them. I think maybe like 2 months ago I played one of their songs, but really, really good, like riffy pop punk, kind of like a Belvedere, maybe like a Willem Scream, some Strung Out in there, like a pop punk band who knows how to play their instruments. Some Millencolin, just a really good band. Definitely go check them out. I really like them. Mean Jeans with a new EP called Hits from the Bog. I'm excited. I'm going to go see them. They're touring right now with The Chats and Thick, and I'm going to be seeing them in Cleveland. I think it's in a couple weeks here. I don't have my tickets yet, but I actually just got a car this month. My last car was like, it was rusting so bad underneath that the rear tires were like literally just gonna pop the fuck off one day. Like I was gonna hit a pothole and my tires were just coming off. Like that's how bad it was. We not passed New York State inspection, so I've not been going to shows at all. And now that I have a vehicle, I'm like itching to go to shows. And now that I can go, I'm definitely The Chats and Mean Jeans. I'm all about that. I got to go see that. So I'll be up there whenever that is. I know it's like, I think 2 or 3 weeks away. I better figure that out, shouldn't I? Because what will happen, as it has in the past, is I'll sleep on a show and then I'll go, oh, when was that show? And then I'll look and it was like a week earlier. And I don't want to do that, so I better look that up after this podcast. A new single from the Interrupters with their song In the Mirror. They got an upcoming record. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but it is coming out soon. And first one since 2018, which, my God, it's been a while. But I loved that last record. It was Fight the Good Fight. Really, really good album. One of my favorites to this day of 2018. That band is just so good at... And they also they deserve the credit because really, like, you think of like She's Kerosene and how big that song got for them and everything. A bona fide, like, hit single, like over into the mainstream kind of thing. And, to hear a ska song, just a straight up ska song like that on the radio in 2018 and to now, being such a, like a big band now outside of just the scene, they're not just this, like I saw them in 2015 opening up for the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones on New Year's Eve. And, like I always feel like there was hype around them within the scene because they're a great band. I mean, deservingly, always kind of have a hype around them. But like that, there's a difference between hype within the scene and then like actual, like, over into radio and TV and like, festivals and, playing all these big tours and stuff. And it's cool to see them just be embraced the way that they have been. So very, very cool. We got a new one, talking about very, very cool. Joyce Manor with Gotta Let It Go. That is their new song off their upcoming record, 40 Ounces to Fresno. Now that one I am crazy anticipating. I love Joyce Manor. This song's really fucking good. I'll play this for you in a minute. But I love the direction they're taking. And it's kind of funny because I see a few people saying it sounded like kind of a return to form of like the older stuff. And I don't hear it. It's short, but I mean, so was, the songs on Cody and $1 Million to Kill Me. The songs are short too. So I don't know about that. But musically, I think it sounds more, I guess, more of a progression towards the last two records. But again, like moving in a direction, because it doesn't sound straight up like Cody or like $1 Million to Kill Me. It's in its own field, but you also, you know what I mean? I think once you hear it, if you haven't heard it yet, when I play it for you here in a second, like it doesn't sound like it comes off those two albums, but it sounds like it's a continuation from there. A band who's progressing off those two records, if you will. But I don't know that I hear on this one like a few people, I think, trying to be like the first one or two records, and I'm like, I don't really hear that, and not in a bad way. I'm all about this, so I'm excited for that new record. I'll play this for you in a second. We got a new one from our friends Hidden in Plain View, brand new single called Temper, their first new song since 2014 with their Animal EP, which was so good, and this song was no exception. So damn good. I gotta shout out Joe Rio. His voice, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's aged one day. His vocals sound, this song could have been like on Life and Dreaming. Like his vocals sound no different than they were back then. The whole band sounds amazing on it. The whole song sounds really, really good. And they haven't announced more yet, but I mean, I'm thinking we're going to get some more stuff from them. They are also playing Furnace Fest in a couple months, which is very, very cool. Same with Midtown, I believe, are also playing, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I think they are. You know what? I think we talked about this last month on the rundown. But yeah, Midtown and Hidden Plainview are playing Furnace Fest this year. But anyway, you know, I had Joe Rio on the show back in 2020, like weeks before the pandemic really started. And he announced on here that the Hidden in Plain View had some songs recorded and stuff. I don't think he said a full length, but I want to say he said they had like an EP's worth of songs. And he wasn't sure they were going to do with it yet, and he wasn't sure what was going on. But like what it sounded like is they wanted to be able to play shows with it and stuff. Even back then, like remember, this is pre-pandemic. I mean, they were kind of talking about at that time just getting their lives all in the same, you know, place and being like, you know, if we'd be able to tour off of it or do this and that, play some shows and promote it. And I think they were holding off during the pandemic. And that's why I think we might get, again, this is me speculating, just one fan speculating, but going off my interview with Joe Rio 2 years ago, the feeling I got about them with new music is they didn't just want to drop a song and then it be just, you know, forgotten about a month later. I think they want to be able to release some music, tour off of it, and be semi-active. You know, I mean, I don't know we're going to get a Hidden in Plain View world tour, but all I'm saying is if they release this, I wouldn't be surprised if we got more music, you know, sometime in the near future, and also some shows. You know, if again, maybe not a 2-month van tour, but like I see them playing some shows, which would be very, very cool. I'd absolutely love that. So, really good song. I'm telling you, Temper, you got to hear this song. It sounds amazing. And the Stereo, speaking of more you know, friends of the show and, you know, people like I mentioned earlier who will be on later in May, but the Stereo just put out their third single off 13, I believe the last single since the album's coming out in 2 weeks. But Truth or Dare, that is the single that is out now, and 13 will be out May 13th. I'm looking so forward to that. It is 3 for 3 so far. There's not a bad song on this album. Not a bad song. I'm totally into it. And Prince Daddy and the Hyena with a new one, their self-titled record. We got Bowling for Soup, their new record, Pop Drunk Snot Bread, and that is out now. Very cool. I guess I shouldn't say supposed to, but I reached out. I want to interview Jarrett Reddick, the singer of Bowling for Soup. Huge fan. I've loved Bowling for Soup since, I mean, 02, 03 would have been when I heard, Girl All the, just much like just about everyone else. I mean, hearing Girl All the Bad Guys Want, and then buying Drunk Enough to Dance. I've been a fan ever since, and would love to have them on. And I think they're about to go on tour again. They just got back from a UK tour, and I think they're going right back on tour. So, I mean, they're extremely busy. So, I mean, I just kind of shot a message out to his publicist, like, you know, hey, do you think we could maybe get something worked out so I could have him on? And he also just put out a brand new country record, too, which I was listening to, which is pretty good, actually. Because it sounds like country music, but Jarrett Reddick doing country music. And he kind of gave me like a last minute one, was like, yeah, you know, could we like do it? Then it was just not a time. We couldn't get the time matched up. It was like literally like one day. And but I'm gonna go back around. I mean, I said I'll kind of reach back out in a month or so. So I mean, no, I'm not gonna say he'll be on right away, but I would say Jarrett will probably be on the show, sometime this summer, which I'd be very into. I really, and actually I'm all ready for it, because when I thought it might happen, I wrote a shit ton of questions. Like it was like I genuinely am excited and want him on, because it's like, you know, sometimes you sit down and really try to think of questions, and sometimes they just flow out of you. Sometimes you really got to kind of think for a minute, do some research. But with Jarrett, I mean, I was like right away, just I thought of so many questions without having to think of much, without having to do any research, just like, oh, like just being a fan all these years, just things I want to ask him. It's the same thing with Jean Beauvoir. I wrote like, I literally had like 50 questions for him. We didn't get to like half of them, and you know, because we were talking about so many different things, and I started going, you know, I never want to stick just to that. You know, I write the questions, but I'm not married to that. If the conversation goes a certain way, I'll just, you know, we're going where the conversation goes. I want the best interview possible. I don't give a shit if I don't hit every question that I had. But yeah, I had like 50 questions for him, just flowed like just this one night. I just sat there. I'm like, my God, like I have this, and this. And yeah, some people it's just that way. And so yeah, whenever I have Jared on, I feel like I had some pretty good questions for him. So maybe we'll have him on in the future. But yeah, I just thought of that. He was almost happened yesterday, but we couldn't get our times around. like I was saying, that's what this whole episode's about. I've talked about that a few times now. Like, just there's so much with interviews where it's like, it's just, you're trying to get schedules around. I got my shit going on. They have their shit going on, or sometimes I already have an interview booked. They got an interview booked, whatever. But that's another one that definitely is on there, is like someone I want on. I love Bowling for Soup. They introduced me to a lot of bands, and the music's great. Like I was listening to the new record, and it's like, it's good pop punk, and they're fucking funny. Like, that band has never taken themselves too seriously. Like, they're self-aware, they're funny, like, and they're actually funny too. That's the other thing, is like, it's not even like they're cheesy. It's like they're legitimately funny people. So it's like, you listen to that stuff, and it just, you can't not smile and laugh to those, to those albums and stuff. And same with a live show. I mean, they stand as one of the greatest live shows you will ever see. Like, for one, you'll know every single song. Like, you'll go there and I don't care if you're a big fan or not, like, just from hearing them on the radio and shit, you'll know every song they play. But just the stage banter, and I mean, just everything about them, like, they've really perfected their live show to a place of, like, I mean, it really is one of the best live shows you can see. I don't care what music you like, as long as you like having a good time and like smiling, you're not going to find a better show than a Bowling for Soup show. But moving on, we got a new one from Tim Kasher of Cursive. His new album is out now, Middling Age. And Heart to Gold just put out their new record, Tom, which we will open up the set right now of new music with their song Tiger's Jaw. I'm really liking this. They're a Twin Cities band, and really good. I'd never heard them before this album, and I got to check out some more. I don't know how long they've been together, but I really like this. Maybe you've heard them. If you haven't, you're about to now. So off Heart to Gold's new record, Tom, this is Tiger's Jaw right here on the April 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right here on the April 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was Joyce Manor with Gotta Let It Go off their upcoming record 40 Ounces to Fresno. Before that was Def Lingo from over in Italy. That was their song Summertime off their brand new record Lingonberry. And opening up that block of music was Twin Cities band Heart to Gold with their song Tiger's Jaw off their brand new record Tom. All right, we got a little music news for you, and then we'll be done with the episode. So let's get on into it, shall we? Recent guest of the show, Mikey Erg, just announced a brand new full band solo record. It'll be coming out on June 28th. It is Love at Leeds. He's going to be backed by Jeff Rosenstock, Alex Clute, and Lou Handman. And actually, Steve Albini is going to be producing it, which is pretty damn rad. At first, I knew Jeff was in his solo band on this one, but I also thought he produced it first, and then I saw later on it was not. It was Steve Albini doing it. And this one will be out on Don Giovanni Records. Again, that'll be June 28th. Brand new Mikey Erg full band album. I mean, he's always busy, but like he's just full steam in 2022, I feel like. I mean, with two new Ergs EPs, releasing that Ergs Rarities, the Hindsight is 2020 Part 2. That was already out, but putting it out on vinyl, doing this. He's been touring with the Warriors. A bunch of other bands too. I know Lou, who is in his solo band. I think he was playing drums in her band. She also has a band, and he was playing in that. Like he's played in so many damn. I know recently actually he was playing with Jeff Rosenstock live for something I believe over in the UK. Like that man doesn't stop. Like Mikey Erg just doesn't stop. There's never a time when he's not doing something. But I really do though feel like 2022 is even more nuts. But I mean, and again, with that said, he's like releasing something every year. But I'm looking forward to that. I mean, anything Mikey Erg puts out, it's probably going to be good. That's just how it is. That's what Mikey Erg does. He just writes really catchy, really good music. I mean, one of the best senses for, I would say, like melody within punk rock. I mean, one of the best who really understands it. He's like a student of music, which I think is so important. I think the best ones, like, because obviously I feel like pop punk is his like bread and butter, but it's like that dude like listens, like what you get and what makes him so good is the fact that that's not the only thing he listens to. You know what I mean? Like he's well versed in pop punk and the history of it and all that. But I mean, that guy listens to so many things that are so far away from pop punk and punk rock. And I think that's what makes him so good, is understanding all of that. I mean, I think if you stay too narrow-minded on something, you're just going to sound like everyone else. And I think that's why everybody uses him, why he's in so many bands and stuff, because he doesn't sound like everyone else. He's Mikey fucking Erg. There's not another Mikey Erg. There's just that one. So I'm definitely looking forward to that record. That should be good. They'll be out in June, very end of June, and hopefully he'll tour off that. That'd be cool. I mean, I'm assuming he will. He's touring a bunch anyways. But actually moving on and still having to do with Mikey Erg, this one is really cool. The Bouncing Souls announced their 2022 Stoked for the Summer show. It'll be going on Saturday, July 15th up in Asbury Park at the Stone Pony Summer Stage, which actually I believe that is where I think it was the Stone Pony Summer Stage that I saw the Fat Records 25-year anniversary tour back in 2015. I believe, yeah, it was. Okay, no, it definitely was. And it was in Asbury Park, but it was at the Stone Pony Summer Stage. I've still never seen a show in the Stone Pony, but I did get to see that at the Summer Stage, which is just basically outside in the parking lot. But really, really good lineup. Obviously, the Bouncing Souls will be playing, but playing with them, Joyce Manor, who we just played a minute ago, Hot Water Music, who we played, I believe, last month on the Rundown, because they just put out a new record, and the Ergs. So that is, I mean, Bouncing Souls, Joyce Manor, Hot Water Music, and the Ergs. That is, for me, that's a lineup worth driving for. There's a very good chance I end up there. Because any excuse to, I love Asbury Park. It is like my favorite place in New Jersey. And any reason to like go to the boardwalk and like catch a punk show and go to like the pinball museum and then go over to Bagel Masters and get the best goddamn bagels in all of New Jersey. And now I'm going to shed a tear because the next thing I'm going to be and hit up vintage vinyl, but that is no longer a thing. And that is very goddamn sad. But this still would be worth driving up and seeing that. I mean, that's just such a good show. And the Bouncing Souls, like, props to them, because I feel like that's a band, for one, they've been together forever. And it's like, I think they're really like good with lineups, and so they're a band who I go see. Like, I think every time I go see them, like on a headlining tour, I always love the opening bands because they always pick good ones. And it's never just like, like a band after a while, you might just start bringing out the same bands who are like, the ones you came up with, or like, just the people you play with all the time. You know what I mean? Like if you're, there's, and I'm not even talking shit, but I mean, there's, if you're a fat band from the 90s, a lot of times if you're going out on tour, you bring other fat bands from the 90s. It's just, and again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. A lot of people want that. I want that a lot of times. I'm still waiting for the Drive Through Records fucking, Invasion Tour 2022. Like, but the thing I like about the Bouncing Souls is they kind of mix it up, because like Joyce Manor, Hot Water Music, and the Ergs are all bands that I think if you like the Bouncing Souls, you'll probably like, but they're not just straight up, just the, also the bands they came up touring with, I mean, including like Joyce Manor's only been around for like, not just around, but, over a decade now, but I mean, really seriously about a decade. And, it's not like a new band, but still not in like the same generation as Bouncing Souls. And even the Ergs, really. I mean, the Ergs were, years later. And Hot Water Music, I guess, is a little closer to that. I'm sure the Bouncing Souls and Hot Water Music toured some back in the 90s and throughout the years. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That was a really, I was happy about that announcement. I mean, I know they do that. That's an annual summer fest for them. But they always pick good bands. And again, I feel like they like mix it up enough, but they mix it up in a way where you're still going to like the bands. It's not a thing where they mix it up so much, but it's like something that you're not going to give a shit about. You know what I mean? Because it's like so left field or so different from them. I mean, it's different, but not trying to be too crazy different where it doesn't make sense. So I'm looking forward to that. And look I am weaving all these things, that Mikey Erg album into the Ergs playing with Bouncing Souls. Here's another one having to do with the Bouncing Souls. Beach Rats. It is a amazing, amazing supergroup if you've never heard of them. Ari Katz of Lifetime, Danny Windas of Let It Burn, Brian Baker of Minor Threat, Bad Religion, and a million other bands. And then also in the band rounding it out from the Bouncing Souls is Brian Kindlin and Pete Steinkopf. So you got a good chunk of the Bouncing Souls in this super group, but they just announced a brand new record coming out July 29th on Epitaph Records. It's going to be called Rat Beat, and they just put out a music video with the title track Rat Beat that you can go check out on their YouTube page. And they did put something else out back in 2018. I forgot about that. I think I heard it when it came out. But Beach Rats, they did an EP called Wasting Time. But yeah, it was like 4 years ago. But they're back. I mean, Lifetime, Let It Burn, Bouncing Souls, and Minor Threat all in one band is pretty damn cool. Plus Ari of Lifetime. Anytime you really get to hear him sing, it, like, you know, no matter what band, it's like I love his voice. It just works so well with like fast aggressive punk rock. Like that dude is just, he was born to, you know, to play that kind of music. His voice is just made for it. It's God damn, it's just making me think of how much I love Lifetime, including like Jersey's Best. I know all the records, but like Jersey's Best Dancers is like, I mean, nonstop. I remember when I was in college just listening to that. Like anytime I would go to the library or the computer lab just to work on stuff, like that is so many times what I would like just throw on the headphones like right away. Like, you know, there were a couple of years of my life where I probably listened to that record at least 5 times a week. Like I don't think, and that might even be an underestimating it. It might be more. But yeah, all those bands are so goddamn good. That's a band full of legends, honestly, and a lot of New Jersey legends. Actually, I think all of those guys, yeah, are all those are all New Jersey guys. Really, there's something about that state. I mean, I know we've talked about it ad nauseum. We've done whole episodes on it, but New Jersey, like, I mean, like New York, we have the Ramones and, you know, I mean, all those other like New York CBGB punk bands and stuff, but I mean, if we're talking volume, I think New Jersey might have New York beat for the amount of amazing bands and artists who have come from it. You know, I mean, yes, bands moved to New York, artists moved to New York, but how many of them were originally from New Jersey? Like, I feel like so much of it comes from New Jersey. And I mean, even just though that tri-state area of, you know, like New Jersey, like, you know, around New York City, and then also Pennsylvania around like the Philadelphia area. I mean, that's another one. There's so many, like current day, I feel like Scranton and Philly, so many good like pop punk, emo, like whatever bands come from there. I mean, Menzingers being the number one, Tiger's Jaw being in there. I mean, like there's so many that just, and for a while now too, Will Yip, I mean, who produces and engineers all these fucking records now. I mean, he is, I believe, based over near Philadelphia too. I mean, there's so many records that have been, you know, just worked on and recorded even just in that area, even bands who aren't from there. But yeah, I mean, there is something special about that that like part, again, I guess that tri-state area. I mean, New Jersey too, but I mean, it's not to say that like New York City and Philly and all that don't also, you know, just have like some of the best stuff you've ever heard, you know. But again, New York City, and I'll say I'm on the other side of New York State, but I'm going to say New York State so I can also take credit for the Ramones. And, you know, we got the Ramones, motherfucker, but New Jersey has, with volume, I would say if we sat here and made a list, more great artists came from New Jersey than New York. But again, I'm just going to keep saying Ramones. That's the answer to that. I don't care how many good artists come from New Jersey. Ramones. You know, the Ramones are the greatest. You can't really beat that. I don't know what you'd beat that with. But yeah, that is going to be the episode. I would say that is your April 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. If you want to follow us, that would be so rad of you. We are at Power Chord Hour on YouTube, on Twitter. I guess you can't really follow us on YouTube, but subscribe to our YouTube page. Go follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're all over there. Subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now. You can go all around, even if it's not there. Go to the other places where you're not listening to this. Subscribe, rate, and review there if you would. It'd be rad of you. We got Power Chord Hour stickers. I'd love to send you some. Hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. You know, just shoot me a message, and I'll send you some stickers out. Got a whole bunch of them. And yeah, what else? Oh, radio show again. If you want to hear me play 4 hours of Alkaline Trio this Friday night on the radio show, or just listen every Friday night, we got new radio shows for you of the Power Chord Hour, 8 to midnight Eastern on 107.9 WRFA, where it all began. We've been a radio show much longer than we've been a podcast, so tune on into that, 107.9 WRFA, or listen online at WRFALP.com. And yeah, what will we, you know, I won't tell you who we will be back with next week, because it's either going to be Dylan Flynn or Tony from Fastball, and I don't know off the top of my head. I have it down. I think it will be Dylan. I'm pretty sure I told Dylan it will be next week, but if it's not Dylan, it's Tony from Fastball, and if it's not Tony from Fastball, it's Dylan from Pass the Bass. And actually, too, while you're at it, go check out the Pass the Bass campaign. Really amazing stuff. Dylan Flynn is doing some really cool stuff. I believe he's going to be in Bass Player magazine actually coming up, which is really, really cool. That is insane. So we'll talk about that with him as well. But great to have him back after 5 years. And there are some other stuff. I know Alternative Press did a story with him. I don't even think that long after I interviewed him back in like 2017. And just there's a bunch of stuff out there. So look up Pass the Bass and also go check out Fastball's new EP Soundtrack. Really, really good stuff. I'm looking forward to talking to Tony all about it and just kind of picking his brain about music and recording and all that. But until then, for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.